page Kuf Nun Hey.
Kuf Nun Hey.
And the Rebbe is revealing, so to speak, and focusing in. And we should know that there is the makif recognized even from the pnimi vantage point. It's inevitable that the pnimi should recognize the makif. Even though we said that despite the fact that the makif is the source and there's all support for the pnimi is unaware of it because it's behelam. It's way out of its reach to recognize the effect of the makif. Nonetheless, there has to be an effect of the makif in the pnimi. And that is true universally, even in klipah. Even in klipah, there's an element of bitul to alakus. This bitul is what enables them to receive chayus from alakus. Because chayus is exclusively sourced in alakus. There's no other source of chayus. And the meaning of chayus is received and accepted and has an effect only if you let the chayus itself affect you. If you are going to decipher what it is and take it in with your understanding, with your seichel kohes pnimi, that dissipates the chayus element. And we have numerous mashalim for this that clearly demonstrate and give us a first-hand sense of this phenomenon. The clearest one that we cannot ignore is the inyan that we live from the air that we breathe. So even though for physical life you have to breathe in to take the oxygen into your nostrils and to disseminate it throughout your bloodstream and so forth. But the experience of life is not from the air that you take into the nostrils. It is the air that you accept as your entire, the reality in which you are functioning. The air surrounds, you are in the air environment, in reality. This is what gives chayus. This is what enables a person to perceive and think and sense the meaning of chayus. He's not just active, but he's alive. The principle in this is there are two principles about chayus that need to be recognized. Number one, in contrast to everything else that we experience, everything that we experience in the world, we clearly identify it's having it and not having it. The person needs to eat. So there's a point where he's hungry, and then he goes and takes food and eats. This is the way things are in the world, and in all aspects of the world. You rent money after you gain it. Chayus is one aspect in human existence, in the experience of life, where there is not the moment of not having and then gaining it. You may be in debt for your rent for a month or 2 or 3, but you may not be in debt for breathing 1 instant. There's no such thing as breathing is being withheld, and I'll give it back to you in 2 minutes. Because Chayus is uninterruptible.
A person may feel a lack of chayas, but we're saying here that it's always provided, whether you sense it or not.
Even when he says a lack of chayas, he still senses that there is chayas, that he's alive. It's not possible to have that interruption. It's not possible. Once chayas is interrupted, it's called resuscitation. You can resuscitate a person, Rahman Islam, as long as he's still alive. But if he's actually lost his life, you can't resuscitate him. You can beat him up as much as you want. The reason for that is, this is what I would like we should gain an insight. Even though there is an aspect in air, for example, that you actually identify it, there's a tangibility to it. You can take it into your nostrils and breathe it in, breathe it out. There's some kind of a identifiable element there to which you relate and which you take in and breathe out. The reason that air brings chayus to a person, gives him the sense of chayus, is not due to the air that he actually breathes into his nostrils. This will be the way discussed. It is due to the recognition that there is an abundance in reality, a basic presence of air. There's a source for this life, and that is what gives him the sense of life, not the actual provision of the life into the element itself. It is his connection to the source of it. This connection to the source is a totally intangible element. It is merely the presence of the reality itself, which we cannot really focus in and identify, because it's beyond our ability to identify and understand. This is why, in order to receive chayes from Lakus, there has to be, and it comes only to the bitul. Bitul means that there is no moment where I'm looking for it and I'm getting it. I have it because it's there. And it is there not because of my discovering it and finding it, but because the reality itself is there. Here is where the motion of the air is very clear. The reason there is the sense of life in the world, in the air, is not because we find it, but because it's there. It cannot but be there. As we explained many times, that the actual process of breathing, contrary to what appears to us that we are drawing the air into our nostrils by our design and our focus, the way it actually occurs is that the air pressure forces itself into our nostrils. And it forces itself into us, not only in the nostrils, but through our body. That's called air pressure that holds everything together. This is received and accepted by means of a bitul. We breathe not because we recognize that we're breathing. We breathe by completely ignoring the phenomenon of breathing and the need of air. We just let the divine reality that created life in the world take care of it. Give us life. This is what we explained so far. This is up to Seif Samach Aleph, on page Kuf Nun Hey. So thus far, we are saying that there is the presence of Chayas and the effect of the Chayas Eliki from a makif level, which we receive by virtue of our bitul to this makif. Bitul Pshat, even though I don't understand it and I cannot really identify with it and I cannot grasp it, I cannot take it into my pocket and take it, oh, I have it. It is there only by virtue of its presence. And I accept it that way. In this sense, in this perception, the chayas, the source of the chayas remains an a makif, remains outside of the person who receives the chayas. The Rebbe says there's further points that can be made in this. Api ma shekotz b'nikut teir, based on what it says in Nikut teir, v'di v'matzka l'matzerach ha'ashminis. Nikut teir on this maimer, l'matzerach ha'ashminis, it says, the bechinas ak, that the bechinas ak odom kadmein, this odom kadmein, this is machshava hakduma, the pristine thought, the thought of the world and its inception level. Before the world becomes an itzias and you're thinking about the existence of world. You project the world from a higher perch. This Odom Kadmon is clearly above world. The world doesn't even exist there. And the reason it's being projected is not because the world demands it, but because the makif recognizes itself, within itself it finds it has the what it wants to provide. Therefore, it remains, even as it is effective, it remains aloof and remote. Not remote because it is distant, remote because it is not graspable, it's not understandable from a worldly perspective. With worldly means. Again, think about it. Even something which we experience on a constant basis. Can we perceive what it means to be within the air mass that is forcing itself into our nostrils? We explain it in all kinds of different ways, but we cannot possibly perceive the experience that it is. So this Odom Kadmon, this makif, let's continue on. And the end of that line. Hagam although.
Which line are we on?
The top line of Oy Samachalef.
You went into it, but now we're going to go back.
We only went into it. Okay, what it is. This is where we're up to. So he said the bechinas ak, that the meaning of ak hagam shelo yishayar behislapshus bechinas pnimi. Although that is Odom Kadmon. Hislapshus means getting involved in a worldly presence. In bechinas pnimi, in a pnimi manner. What's meant pnimi? Pnimi means actually identifying how I'm providing this chayas. So even though Ak is the one that provides the chayas, but the Ak should recognize and contemplate how am I going to provide the chayas to this human being. Oy pnimi. We said, how does a person breathe? He breathes through his nostrils. This thing that he breathes through his nostrils comes totally unawares from the perspective of the air mass that provides it. The air mass is not focused on providing air for this pair of nostrils. It is there en mass, and its effect is in a mass manner. Pnimi means that you get involved in what you are providing, what you're doing. Last time we had all kinds of means where you understand between the pnimi. That leishayar beyislapshus bechinas pnimi in a pnimi manner, to be mislabish, to get involved, engaged in that provision, is not shaykh. For various reasons, if we can call it reasons, or for various means that we can focus in on them. For one thing, Oy pnimi means that he is involved in providing something. This makif does not know that there's such thing as providing, because he's not know that there's such thing as not having. He is everywhere. How can you think in terms of how am I going to provide this when he is there already? He's everywhere. Just to put it very bluntly. So he slapshus to get involved in providing the hamakif. Bebchinas oy pnimi in oy pnimi manner is not shayach. It's totally anomalous for him to think, I'm not there and I have to provide. Since it's not shaykh the b'chinas pnimi, therefore that means that the recipient of this makif receives it only due to the fact that the makif forces itself upon him and gives him that chayas. But he is totally unaware of the fact that he is getting chayas from the makif. There is no interaction with the makif, between the makif and the pnimi. So it says in the Likutei Torah that even though this is so, there's no hislapshus between the pnimi. Nonetheless, ha'oras gilui zeh, a reflection. One of these days we'll elaborate and try to get in the word ha'ora. Eventually it'll surface. Ha'oras gilui zeh, the ha'ora, the reflection of this gilui, of this revelation, and this effect, muchach liyesh bi Yisrael. Muchach means it's a must, it's imperative that it should be present by Yid. It's imperative that by Yid, in the Yiddish and the Shomer, there should be this gil, this cognizance, that there's an oip makif, that is its life.
Why are we calling it a gilui if it's a halom?
I'll let you answer that. It's a gilui that we don't understand. Therefore, by us it's behel. The in itself is gilui. He's giving chayas.
It's not really a giving, though.
He's providing it with his presence.
Right, but it was sort of unintentional, just sort of unintentional provision, right? Or no?
Now we're always going to bring it back into a parlance that is not, that is strange to the whole thing. Of course it's not unintentional. Thank you. He's giving chayas, but without being engaged in it. He's not being engaged in giving the chayas because his very presence is providing the chayas. It's very intentional. And no matter how much we speak about it, if we do not focus in and recognize that we are actually experiencing it, it's not going to happen. I'm going back to the original state. 1 second, boy. When what was created initially, it was dark. This darkness was not imposed upon the world. The world, by definition, is dark. The world consists of physical entities which are known only by touch. You cannot see them because they are not at that level of presence. Their effect is by their mass, by their touch. Their effect is not by their form and by their beauty and whatever it is. This is not what the physical world stands for. That's why it was chayshich. Then Vayomer Elokim Yehi Oyer. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. What was this light about? How was the light if there was no luminary? There was no physical luminary. This light was a divine statement that even though this is a physical world, but you should know that this physical world has a divine sense to it, has a divine meaning, intent, which is bright, which you know, which you can identify by sight in the sense that it is not only by touch. It is a reality that the seichel itself can relate to it. It's real to the eye. So this Hi-Oyer is simply revealing in the world the divine element in the world. This is the Gilui Zeh. Although this Gilui remains, so to speak, contained in the worldliness, but there has to be an aspect of a cognizance of this Gilui. In every Jewish neshama. Yes, Baruch.
No, I just not necessarily ask.
Okay.